For the first game in a new franchise, Darksiders is a solid action-adventure, but its 2012 sequel, Darksiders II, builds upon that foundation and introduces a far more interesting world to explore, coupled with engaging combat. The Darksiders series follows the four horsemen of the apocalypse. While the original focuses on the story of War and his false imprisonment, Darksiders II instead follows Death in his quest to save War and restore humanity from extinction. Both stories also occur in roughly the same time frame, so it's easy to hop right into the sequel if you wish to skip the original. While most of the locales in the original Darksiders are ruined cities on Earth, Darksiders 2's environments feel much more distinct. The first big area you explore is the Forge Lands, a lush environment filled with sprawling fields, tall trees, and mountains. The second is the Kingdom of the Dead, a desolate wasteland overflowing with gray sands, dark skies, and roaming skeletons. There's also plenty to do. Aside from finding collectibles and better loot, embarking on side quests often takes you to completely new areas in a region. Some are smaller outposts with a few enemies, while others are completely new dungeons. One of the earliest optional dungeons is the Shattered Forge, a giant stone maze filled with puzzles, wall traversal, and numerous enemies to battle. If players are looking for more of a challenge, there's also a Crucible, where Death can battle waves of enemies to earn better loot. The dungeons themselves are huge labyrinths of intertwining halls and puzzles, each with a boss encounter at the end. They start off with straightforward obstacles where Death may need to run along walls or roll a giant ball to a designated spot. But as Death's repertoire grows, the creativity and complexity of the dungeons follow suit. Later situations require Death to split his body into 3 separate entities to stand on pressure plates, use a grappling hook to swing across gaps, or make use of portals to travel back in time. Although puzzles can drag in some games, Darksiders 2 does an excellent job of keeping them from becoming too time-consuming. Each dungeon puzzle feels a bit more challenging than the last, and the game does a great job of easing you into them. You never feel like you're thrown into a situation where you're in over your head. Similar to the Metroid games, there are many puzzles throughout the world that you may need to return to later with new equipment, but the game always makes it clear when this is the case. While exploration and puzzles are a big part of Darksiders 2, combat also plays a heavy role. Death has many of the combat abilities you would expect right off the bat, but Darksiders 2 gives players a bit more freedom through 2 different skill trees. The Harbinger skill tree focuses more on melee abilities, such as a spinning scythe attack that devastates surrounding foes. Meanwhile, the Necromancer tree focuses more on using arcane arts to summon allies like zombies or crows. Death's scythes feel smooth and fluid, while his secondary weapons provide a good sense of weight and power. These weapons range from a giant hammer to a gauntlet that also deals ice damage. Switching between combat abilities and weapons is natural and intuitive thanks to certain weapons and abilities being tied to face buttons on the controller. Many of these can also be customized if you prefer a different layout. Although Darksiders 2 pulls inspiration from many different avenues we've seen in plenty of other games, it manages to feel distinct and engaging thanks to its great level design and satisfying combat. Now that Darksiders 3 is coming soon, it's the perfect time to catch up and ride with the leader of the Horsemen.